Hi, my name is Alex Castro, and I'm doing my historical figure report on Martin Luther, who was alive from 1483 to 1546. So, Martin Luther actually began out to speak about his career path. He actually started in law school. His father had always wanted him to be a lawyer, so that's what he was doing. He actually didn't love it, though. And he talks about a turning point in his life and for his career path, mainly one day where he was actually caught in a lightning storm. He talks about having a near-death experience in that storm that caused him to kind of do a lot of reflections, and he ended up actually promising God that he would dedicate the rest of his life to his service if he made it through that. So, at that time, that meant the involvement in the Roman Catholic Church, which was pretty dominant throughout all of Europe as the main source of religion. So he decided that he would become a monk instead of studying law. So as far as his development of ideas begins, he actually in the year 1505 went on a trip to Rome, and it was kind of a big eye-opening experience to him. He was observing what was going on in the church down there, saw a lot of things that didn't match up to what he thought should be, mainly the lucrative lifestyles of church leaders down there. The focus wasn't so much on salvation, but people were paying to reduce time done in purgatory or for forgiveness of sins, and it kind of went against what he thought Jesus had taught in the Bible about the humble lifestyle and working towards one's salvation. He thought that this involvement that money had in the idea of one's soul was wrong. So his big moment came when he nailed his 95 Theses against the Catholic Church to a door on one of the churches. This is a pretty significant event. Many people actually think of it as the beginning of the Renaissance time period, or that rebirth of thought, kind of the challenge to this authority that hadn't been challenged. The Roman Catholic Church in all of Europe is in charge of the government, the laws, and the religious life as well. So it was kind of a big deal that he would go out and make this statement and kind of go out and list everything that he thought was going on that was incorrect within that church. So because it was such a huge idea, this led to a big social revolt. And it was kind of interesting. As I did my studying, it mentioned that there were people who had also recognized the hypocrisy and spoken out against it within the Roman Catholic Church. But why was his different? Martin Luther have such a big effect? A lot of it pointed towards the development of the printing press, actually. The Bible was made available to common people, whereas before, there was many people would only in their whole lifetimes met one person who had actually read from the Bible, and that was their church leader. So having access to that led to a lot of revolt, as people thought on their own and decided to speak out against it. So as far as his actual contributions to psychology, he spoke a lot on the idea of free will. He wrote a book called The Bondage of Will, and there's a quote from the textbook that kind of sums it up well. It says, "God foresees purposes and does all things according to his immutable, eternal, and infallible will. This thunderbolt throws free will flat and utterly dashes it to pieces." So he kind of thought that in the world, the will of God existed, the will of Satan existed, and we were just kind of pawns in that plan. The other main thought process that was prevalent because of him was that challenge of authority, the idea that they could stand up to the church and that individual feelings determined what truth was. It was the beginning of the religion Protestantism, which has the root word of Protestant in it. So the root word of protest, so that kind of was the idea that you could think for yourself. He also had a sense of humor. Here you can see a quote from the textbook that is kind of funny. It says, "My enemies examine all that I do. If I break wind in Wittenberg, they smell it in Rome." So he's a personable guy, humorous, and his ideas, though, were very far-reaching in the world of psychology. And these are the sources I used in the study.